Presentation is on ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I will talk about briefly about diagnosis and then about the management primarily, that too the behavioral management. ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder of childhood that is characterized by developmental inappropriate levels of inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. So before we talk about ADHD, I wanted to talk about the prevalence. This is the data for United States. I'll present in India and what the world data is right now. The estimated number of children ever diagnosed with ADHD, according to a national 2016 parent survey in US, is around 6.1 million total, which is 9.4%, where 400,000 children are aged between 2 to 5 years, 4 million children between the ages of 6 to 11 years, and almost 3 million children aged between 12 to 17 years. Boys are more likely to be diagnosed with ADHD than girls, 12.9% in boys and 5.6% in girls. About 5 in 10 children with ADHD had a behavior or conduct disorder problem. And mostly ADHD doesn't get diagnosed until and unless there is a accompanied behavior and conduct problems. Otherwise, anybody who's doing well in academics, they are very functional and they are able to manage their behavior irrespective of their hyperactivity or inattention. That usually doesn't even get noticed or diagnosed. It is very highly correlated with anxiety, and even we have seen in our clinic setups, the children who have very high anxiety, they also come out very inattentive. In fact, some of the times when children are diagnosed with, they've been sent with the reference of that the child is very inattentive, and when we do an analysis and we look deeply, the underlying cause comes out to be anxiety and not the primarily ADHD. This is the prevalence in India, which has been reported, almost 11.3%. But in one of the study, which is reporting almost 32.4%, which looks like a very, very huge number. But again, the same trend, mostly more in boys than girls. And the male ratios is 4:1 of the hyperactivity type. And in inattention, it is 2:1. There is a data which talks about the world in which they have collected all collective among the United Arabs, Europe, and US, and they came out around almost 7% in the world population. The susceptibility of ADHD is there. We also have to see that there is more diagnosis of ADHD in US than in any other countries. Causes, they are not well-known causes about it, but mostly predominantly which are involved are genetics. There is a family history. It could be environmental because of exposure to any environmental toxins. It is the lead or the paints and the other toxins in the environment which have been associated with the ADHD symptoms. Problems with the central nervous system. I think there is enough data with the MRIs and functional MRIs to show there are some problems in the central nervous system. And also the premature birth and the maternal use of drugs, alcohol, and smoking have been associated with the children having ADHD symptoms. Mostly I have seen many doctors, many counselors, many people talk about that sugar is a popular suspect in causing hyperactivity, but there hasn't been any proof or a reliable data proving that. However, it has been proven there are some foods which can lead to certain symptoms. So it is the guidelines say that one should monitor that any particular food which can cause allergy or does lead to some hyperactive behaviors, that should be monitored. It could be either sugar or it could be some other food, but the role of sugar has been overemphasized in ADHD. So far, no reliable data has proven that. And many issues can lead to difficulty in sustaining attention. So many times when children are on anti-asthma or some other medicines, they do come across a lot of behavioral outburst behaviors, but it may not be stemming only because of ADHD. So it is also recommended to wait and see that what other factors could be contributing to difficulties in sustaining attention or hyperactivity or behavioral outburst. It may not be only the root cause. The ADHD may not be the only root cause. The diagnosis with DSM-4, the criteria hasn't changed much between DSM-4 and DSM-5, but there had been major changes in few categories. For example, less than age of 17, there should be 6 symptoms of both categories, either inattention or hyperactivity. Above than age 17, earlier ADHD was only a childhood disorder. DSM-5 has added this as an adult disorder also. It is a disorder which leads in the adult life also. So it is not only to be associated with as a childhood disorder. There are many adults with ADHD. The manifestations keeps changing, but it continues in the adult life as well. But the criteria could be 5 symptoms in both the categories or one of the categories. The symptoms should be present more than one setting. If the school is complaining the child is not able to concentrate, and at home a child is able to perform very well, not from only the parents' perspective, but seriously the child can do, the manifestation of the behavior has to be in more than one setting. Just one setting, whether it's an occupation setting or a school setting, educational setting, or a home setting, is not enough data to say that the child has ADHD. These symptoms should persist more than 6 months, and it should be present before the age of 12. Earlier, the age set in DSM-7 was the symptoms have to be present before the age of 7, but now it is set the symptoms should be presented before the age of 12, which has been raised in DSM-5. It is inconsistent with developmental level of the child. Child could have a very good IQ, or child can be functioning very well in other things, but the symptoms of ADHD can still coexist. And it should also be excluded from other psychiatric disorders, because many times children with either mood disorders or some other problems may demonstrate some of the inattention or impulsivities, but that could not be, ADHD may not be the only underlying condition.
And what is this more than one setting?
One thing is, it cannot be only that the teachers are reporting the child is very hyperactive, and in the home setting I am not observing that, or when the child comes to my clinic and when we work for them for hours and I don't see that behavior. So that is not a one setting input. Especially what happens is, in clinical setup, usually people give rating scales. So at times the rating scales come out, the parent may rate very high or the teacher may rate very high, and when I am observing the child and I am not seeing those are commensurate. So rating scales should not be the only criteria, and one setting, one teacher, the ideal criteria should be taken input from different settings, because as a clinician I may not be able to go and observe the child in the natural setting. So I have to take input of various people. How is this behavior in the educational setting, in the home setting, and in the natural environment? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, okay.
So the new overall diagnostic category has changed the name. Earlier, it used to be disorders usually first diagnosed in infancy, childhood, and adolescence. But DSM-5 says neurodevelopmental disorders. ADHD now is considered a lifespan disorder. It is not only a disorder which is manifested in the childhood. It has also added some new criteria across the lifespan, and lower age cutoffs, as I said, from 7 to 12 has been the onset change from age of 7 to 12 years. And earlier the criteria was that if a child has ASD, then we never used to say comorbid as ADHD. But now DSM-5 says that children with PDD or ASD can also be given a diagnosis of ADHD. And many children who have ASD, and if they have accompanied comorbidity ADHD, and if treated, then they do show good results.
Satinder, as far as the age is concerned, you see, when you mentioned the American data, 2 to 5 years was a group which you mentioned, and minimum 6 months observation. How are they diagnosing so early? When the child is just between 2 and 5 years, and you have already observed the child for more than 6 months in 2 different settings, and
Sir,
it's a large number of children falling in that group.
Yeah. So if you see the US data generally for neurodevelopmental disorders is very high in US, because even the data about autism, which they claim 1 in 50, is very, very high. But there are different reasons for that. Because in US, when they collect data not only from the clinical setups, they take the educational data as well. And all the children who having any delays, and if they are fulfilling the criteria of ADHD, they will be given the provisions, because they have a very strong early intervention programs. So whatever, eventually those children may not even have the symptoms or may have come out of that. But if they were diagnosed and if they were given services at that age, they will be put under the data. So usually neurodevelopmental disorders data, if you will see, it is very, very high in US. It could be either they are overdiagnosing or they are taking the whole data, or other countries are not diagnosing or not equipped with that. That's a conversation that continues.
Okay.
And also ADHD usually in US is a medical diagnosis. The psychologist can give the input, but educational diagnosis is not given of ADHD. It is mostly a medical diagnosis. And the other aspect to it is it's a very, very pharmaceutical driven decisions of ADHD, because in order to get certain services, you have to actually put it on the paper that the child fulfills this criteria. So,
Pharmaceutical services?
because the lot of medications
Usually
in
medicines
ADHD,
are not started in children less than 5 years now.
that is the guidelines. But there are children who are given medicine at the age of 4 years as well.
Okay.
So ADHD occurs in different presentations. Some children will have only inattention, some may have hyperactive impulsivity type, and some children may have inattention and hyperactivity, which we used to call combined presentation. A lot of people say that a child has only ADD. ADD used to be a criteria in DSM-3. DSM-4 had come out with ADHD inattention type. But in DSM-5, they have changed a little how do we put categories on. So we still continue saying there is a combined presentation, which is consist of both inattention and hyperactivity symptoms. And if there is predominantly inattention as per DSM-5, but there are 3 to 5 symptoms of hyperactivity also, we call it inattention type. But if there are only inattentive symptoms and 1 or 2 symptoms of hyperactivity, then it is called restrictive inattentive type. And hyperactivity also 6 inattention and 2 or more hyperactive impulsive. So these are just the different presentations of ADHD. It could be either combined type or inattention type or predominantly hyperactive impulsivity type. So these are the few things which generally parents can report in the to the pediatricians or when they come to the clinic, that ध्यान ही नहीं देता है, usually काम करता है तो जब घर पे नहीं बैठो तो काम खत्म नहीं करता है, careless mistakes करता है, you know, the child is not able to finish his work, class में time खत्म हो जाता है, वो पढ़ता ही नहीं है, this doesn't seem to listen, आप बुलाते रहो तो वो काम ही नहीं, वो सुनता ही नहीं है, अपना काम फिनिश नहीं करेगा, डेली एक्टिविटीज भूल जाता है, रोज पेंसिल गुम हो जाती है, रोज नोटबुक छोड़ के आ जाता है स्कूल में, अपनी चीजों का ध्यान नहीं देता. So these are all kind of symptoms of inattention. Activity, usually we see that children who are very squirmy, they are very fidgety, they will be usually roaming in their seat, or they may stand up after some time, they might frequently go to the bathroom, they like to leave their seats, they are not able to sit, agar baithenge to seedhe nahi baithenge, they will be fiddling with things, or they will, you know, throw pencils to other people, or they will take other people's stuff. They might sometimes run excessively. Children who are very extremely hyperactive, they have very difficulty sitting at one place. So usually in the school settings, children who are running and, you know, jumping from the thing, not 1 or 2 thing, but consistently there are children you can see that they have a very high energy level and they have difficulty engaging in leisure activities. Complaints come in all settings. So coming to Dr. Vipin, your answer that complaints are not from one setting. Children with ADHD usually get complaints from all the settings. कि soccer खेलने गए तो soccer का coach बोल रहा है problem है, dance class से complaint आती है. So it's not only one setting where the problem is coming. जहाँ पर भी डालते हैं, they will start the task, but they will not be able to finish it. Because sometimes when you're in a group setting, even the coaches kind of pushes you. So you are not following instruction, then you are left behind. So this is across the setting. You will see it's not that खाली पढ़ने में problem आती है. Many parents will say कि TV देखता है तो आराम से बैठ जाता है, video game देखता है तो आराम से बैठ जाता है. But those are not the activities which require sustained attention, because those are very engaging and very stimulating activities. So children usually can sit through the video games, they can sit through the TV, but even if the movie is very boring, they may not sit there for a long time. Many children who have accompanying learning problems, they may not even understand the story very carefully. So the symptoms in different settings will manifest in a different format. And also children with impulsivity easily gets into fight. So in the classroom, when the teacher is asking a question, these are the children who are raising their hands, and they are, without even raising their hand, they will be blurting out answers. They will have difficulty waiting for their turns. Many times I have heard many doctors saying that, in the clinic only we saw ये बहुत उधम मचा रहा था, भाग रहा था, दौड़ रहा था. So you can clearly see these children will not follow the social norms. सोफे के ऊपर चढ़ जाएंगे, and they will be sitting very awkwardly, or they will be running, or they'll be fiddling with a lot of things in the clinic. I once had this girl who came, and whatever chai ka saman, everything, she just rolled down everything, and toys utha ke fenkna. And so you can clearly see a lot of impulsive. And I'm not talking about a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old. We are talking about, it is not age appropriate. A 6-year-old, you don't expect them to be running on the sofa or just throwing things and taking the books and putting it all across the places. So when the parents are talking, they may not be able to sit and wait. They will come and intrude. They will say, "Mummy, ye ho gaya," or they will come and tell the parent, "Come with us. We want to show you this." So there is very difficult to control their impulse. If they want to get anything done, they will come and get it done. And again, being unable to play or engage in hobbies quietly. For example, like, engaging TV they can watch, but when they are playing the games, usually these are the children, when they are not happy with the results, they are the one who will just throw the whole game. अगर लूडो खेल रहे हैं तो पूरा लूडो का वो हटा देंगे, अगर हार गए तो के पूरी पूरी चेस की गेम हटा देंगे. They also have difficulty accepting the how can I fail. That is why children with ADHD also end up not having many friends, because they react to the situations and they have difficulty sustaining friendships as well. So AAP guidelines basically is to follow DSM-5 criteria and use behavior rating scales along with the observations to make a conclusive diagnosis. And the revised outline standards have also talked about the follow-up and the monitoring every 3 months, 6 months, especially if a child is on medication or any behavioral intervention. A continued follow-up and monitoring is recommended. Now, a few guidelines which are there for the diagnosis is that for the diagnosis, DSM-5 criteria has to be met. Usually, as I said, in US, it is a medical diagnosis. So even if we provide certain rating scales, and if we put in the report, we could not write on the report that the child has ADHD. It has to come through either a healthcare professional, a pediatrician, a psychiatrist, or any other qualified people who work with the children with ADHD. A full clinical and psychosocial assessment is required. Many times the referral comes and says ki ADHD ka assessment karwana hai. Usually ADHD assessment should not be done in isolation. This is what I have been trained in US as a guidelines, because ADHD, if is not impacting you in any social or any educational or your daily living, then it should not be used as a diagnosis either, because it could have some other some pervasive effect on a child. So ADHD in isolation is usually left alone, is not treated until and unless it is having impact on your daily living. A full developmental and psychiatric history has to be reviewed. Usually there is an association of children who are ADHD, they tend to have more bipolar or mood disorders in the longer run. So anybody who manifests mood disorders also need to be looked at developmental history if there was any history of ADHD. And the mental state, as I said, it's not only necessary that when you are doing the assessment, you have not observed, because sometimes parents will come, attention hi nahi karta hai. So sometimes attention may be the primary reason, but when you have learning disabilities also, you may manifest it as a attention problem, but actually children who have learning disabilities may not be able to, they also make silly mistakes. So until and unless you've done a full analysis, you will not be able to differential diagnose. Recently, we tested a 24-year-old. He came with a problem that he has dyslexia, and he wanted to go for a GMAT test. And you get provisions if you have a dyslexia or you have any neurodevelopmental disorders, history of that. So we did the assessment, but he actually did not have dyslexia. He primarily had ADHD. And when we looked at his profile and during the testing, his mental state, he would not respond immediately. He would get lost in between. When you moved on to the other, he would go back and answer the previous thing. And when we took his self-rating scales also and our observations together, it matched. His primary problem was actually inattention, which was never being picked up in his childhood. So as a 24-year-old, the good news for him is that he would still get exemptions by the GMAT body if he has ADHD, but he had to get it formal medical diagnosis on that. The diagnosis of ADHD should not be made solely on the basis of rating scales. Many times there are many people who just give the rating scales to the parent or a teacher, and whatever the results come based on that, the diagnosis is given. But rating scales are just an adjunct factor which gives you valuable information, but you should not be basing your diagnosis of ADHD just on the rating scales. The symptoms should cause moderate psychological. As I said, that, you know, until and unless there is no educational impact or there is no social impact, then it should not be considered as a primary disorder to be given services for or to be given any interventions. Only some few tips to the parents can be given and how it can be managed. It doesn't have to be given a proper any kind of a accommodation to a child. It can be pervasive in 2 or more important settings. Again, I come back to that all the combination of input from the parent, from the teacher, from the natural setting, and your own observations in the clinic, what did you observe? Neither one of them is sufficient enough to give a diagnosis. INCLEN is an Indian tool which has been freely available online, and the Indian Academy of Pediatrics highly recommend that. Vanderbilt scales and Conners scales are also very widely used. Conners scales is the mostly, which is the updated forms of ADHD scales. And then there are others, ADHD and Swanson-Nolan, which has been recommended by the IAP, but these are little old DSM-3 guidelines. So the Indian academic pediatrics have also published that they did not find good results by using the short form of Vanderbilt scale or the Conners abbreviated rating scale, but they found good results with the in the diagnosis by using child behavior checklist, and the other INCLEN is highly recommended by the Indian Academy of Pediatrics. Some of the comorbidities which happens along with ADHD are oppositional behaviors, and many times until and unless child actually demonstrate, ADHD in itself doesn't become a problem, but children who started demonstrating oppositional defiant disorder becomes a huge problem, especially in adolescent. I have right now working with 2 children. It's very difficult for parents to manage because they are manifesting a lot of anger. They are there's a single mother, the child is hitting mother. He's old enough now, he's throwing water on her face, and extremely difficult situation. But the mother is also not able to handle it very carefully, because if he manifests anger, she actually manifests double anger, and he is old enough now so he can give back to her. So it is really not a very good situation. So many children with ADHD, and the child refuses to eat the medicine. He is being prescribed ADHD medication, but he refuses to eat it, and he's old enough, and the mother is not able to manage that. Many children have conduct disorders. Conduct disorders usually end up having a lot of social problems. Like many times, I think when we read in the newspaper, children without listening to their parents or without telling them, take up the scooter and the cars, and a lot of accidents that happens. They are just impulsive behaviors. And many children with ADHD actually end up doing a lot of impulsive behaviors, and not following the law is one of those things which children with ADHD are very high susceptible to. Children with ADHD also, the data is saying as high as 45% have learning disorders. And usually, as I said, if somebody has ADHD and is managing themselves, then we don't kind of treat or follow up on that. But if they start manifesting some of the other, because they are susceptible to some of these problems. Along with that, there could be anxiety problems. Substance use is very highly correlated with it. Many college students I have come across who have ADHD, but what they do is they go online and they diagnose themselves, and they will go to the psychiatrist, get the medicines prescribed. They will only eat medicines during the exams, and rest of the time they substance use is very high among the college students, and they don't think taking weed is any big deal. And alcohol is also, there are as good universities like Ashoka and Jindal, there are some dhabas close by, so a lot of children just go there and they say it's a trend. So many times ADHD symptoms actually get settled with use of some substance use also, and many college students end up using those. It is very highly correlated with anxiety disorders. Mood disorders, bipolar has been very highly correlated with previous ADHD diagnosis. Autism spectrum disorder, again, we see high comorbidity of ADHD. And many times children with ADHD also end up, tic disorder, Tourette is also independently, but we also see children with ADHD. And mostly what I have seen clinically is that children who have ADHD and tics, then given the medicine, and even tic disorder is very prevalent in children with anxiety disorders. Some of the, again, visual of what I just said, sometimes when we see adults with the personality disorders, we can easily see some of the symptoms of ADHD also. Intermittent explosive disorder, borderline personality. They are very, very impulsive. The way they don't look at the other's perspective, they are very narcissistic. Many anxiety disorders, OCD, and that also comes across with ADHD and inattention. And what usually we've seen in clinical setup, if anxiety is the primary problem, and if you give only a treatment, a medical treatment, methylphenidate for ADHD, usually the outcomes are not good, and they actually sometimes hurt children more. You can see more increase of angry behaviors in children rather than helping them with the ADHD symptoms. So I just added these two slides because there are some positives of diagnosis, because sometimes some people think that agar ADHD hai, to it should get diagnosed, and it comes across as a parents also have themselves seen certain behaviors and they've read online and they want ki ADHD hai, to then we should just start doing something. So positives of diagnosis is that it definitely improves the understanding of symptoms. If a parent comes to me, actually a few weeks back, a parent came to me, it was a 4-year-old child, and the child definitely has a lot of high activity level, and he had a lot of impulsivity, and they wanted to do an assessment on ADHD. And after doing a lot of observations and doing a developmental assessment, I personally felt there was no need to put it down on the paper as a formal diagnosis. Reason being is because I have seen children who get labeled in school. It back of the mind, everybody start perceiving you like that. So there is no treatment for ADHD, as we all know. It's basically managed. So I explained the parents, and I had a long session, explained them that yes, he does definitely have symptoms. You know it. What we can do is that you need to follow certain strategies. These are the behavioral outcomes. And the child was very, very good and high in intelligence. So mostly children who are good in academics or good in cognitive abilities, they don't manifest problems. So usually they get completely ignored in the classroom setting, even if they are little hyperactive. But if the child is not able to perform in the academics, or are being totally disrespectful to the teacher, or is showing some of the externalizing behaviors, then only these children get picked up. So I gave some strategies to the parent that what they can do at their own end to manage the behaviors, rather than just putting it on paper. And of course I gave them a handout. It doesn't need to be shared with many people at that point. The diagnosis also helps in identifying and building on individual strengths, because my last slide will be that there is now new research which is talking about there are some strengths in among the people, positive sides of ADHD as well. And it improves the access to services, because until and unless you don't know, then you will not be able to get any services in the school. Many progressive schools which are open to neurodevelopmental difficulties, they actually do provide some of the provisions like classroom accommodations, and usual the problem comes is the children may not have any learning difficulties, but they may not even be able to finish their exam. So when the exams come, so simple accommodations like teacher revisiting their exam and saying that you've not finished this, and just supervising them a little bit. There are some negative impacts. As I said, some children do get stigmatized and labeled. The teacher will start kind of, calling their name more often for anything negative happens. So children start getting a bad self-esteem because they start getting named for every problem which has been caused in the classroom. Some children also use this as an excuse. Some children behavior actually worsens once they come to know, and I have seen children saying that I have ADHD, so what if I have done this? So that also actually sometimes goes in the other direction. Definitely there are in the developed economies, it also impacts your regular life, because it can impact your driving style, it does impact your substance misuse. So employment issues and some of the educational issues can pertain if you've been diagnosed with ADHD. Now, usually, as I said, If somebody has ADHD, we can use certain strategies and just go by that. But what are the times when children with ADHD start misbehaving? It is usually the frustration, because they view and they perceive the environment very differently. So if I enter a classroom and there is a lot of, I don't know where to keep my bag, I don't know how to sit at a place, there is a lack of structure. So individuals who don't have ADHD is able to understand and able to follow the protocol. But usually a lot of organizational problems, a lot of what we call the executive functioning problems are associated with ADHD. So children with ADHD may not able to initiate the task. The child, the teacher has given the task. They may take time ki, the teacher may give 5 or 6 instructions. They are only stuck with first instruction. Or while the teacher was giving the instructions, the bell rang or something distraction happened. So once the distraction gets over, other students are able to come back to whatever instruction was given. But children with ADHD may just completely lose what was said. So these are some of the things which children with ADHD then end up misbehaving. They take up the role of being a bad child or take up a role of being a clown. Agar if I behave like this, the whole class start laughing, or I'm able to distract the class by behaving like this. So they start taking up that role and they own up to that behavior then. The child may feel misunderstood in the class, in the classroom or in the school setting. A lot of work, because they have difficulty in organizing, they might feel that whatever task can give, they're overwhelmed with that. They are not able to keep track of their konsi notebook. Usually they don't submit things on time. The parents will come, अरे सब कुछ homework करा हुआ था, submit ही नहीं करवाता. They might just don't follow, they don't understand the cause and effect, that okay, if I have studied for the test, I have to go and give the test. They don't understand what could be the consequences. They're not able to put it together. And sometimes they also actually end up being a victim cycle, that I'm not able to do it, so what should I do? I don't understand that. And then they start behaviors. So this is just one of the visual actually, which happens with a child with ADHD. It also happens with children with learning disability. This is what they keep hearing from adults, as a teacher, as a parents, not again, stop fiddling with the thing, can you focus, you should know better. So there's a constant redirection or criticism and rejection, which keeps coming from the adults back to work. Pay attention, why can't you do this, kitni bari bolna padega, baar baar wohi galti karte ho. And the child on the other hand might be saying that maybe I'm stupid, oh it's so hard, I just don't understand, I'm sorry, I don't mean to. So the child inner voice actually changes. It just gives you such a poor self image. And I personally feel that children with learning disability or ADHD are so kind of even in the best of the schools where teachers have understanding, they have such a negative view of children with ADHD, because it is difficult for them to manage. Children who have high energy levels, they, rather than understanding their world, everybody starts blaming that child. So as an individual, as a parent, sometimes parents feel very embarrassed when we go to some place, वहाँ पे कुछ भी बोल देता है, घर की सारी चीजें बता देता है, इसको समझ में ही नहीं आती कहाँ पे क्या बोलना होता है. हम वहाँ गए मूवी देखने, वहाँ पे जोर से रोने लग गया. So that it is, it becomes, they don't know how to manage that, and they start giving negative feedback to the child. And child on the other hand also doesn't know, has not developed those skills how to manage those behaviors. Children with ADHD, they have also specific learning disorder. As I said, 45%, as high as 45% also have learning difficulties. I had worked with this child. She was in kindergarten when we were diagnosed as ADHD. And we assessed her, there was no gaps in her education, and parents actually managed her. They never shared the results with the school, but outside school had kept working with her and on her academics, and she's very high intelligence, there was no gaps. But now going to 6th grade, the gaps are showing up. Gaps are showing up because few areas she's struggling, but mostly the problems come wherever the sustained effort is required. जब बहुत ज़्यादा लिखना होता है, she's not interested. जहाँ पे भी पेपर होते हैं, पेपर खाली छोड़ आना, अपनी assignments finish करके complete नहीं करना. So now the teachers so far were doing things and it was helping her, but now her grades has really slided. So now parents are thinking of reassessment and submit the report to the school so that the school can actually come along and help the child so that at least her performance doesn't get affected. So lot of children with, as I said, SLD and ADHD they show the similar patterns, but sometimes SLD with ADHD is prominent. Sometimes ADHD becomes a primary and SLD becomes a secondary problem. Sometimes there is a comorbidity of ADHD along with SLD. So there are different manifestations which can exist, but mostly they demonstrate the similar kind of a thing because the adults are not able to understand their world and they get a lot of negative criticism. Clinicians assessing for patients with ADHD should routinely look for SLD features and vice versa. For children with SLD, it is necessary to screen for other disorders also. Many times ADHD, because they are not listening, they also have auditory processing, and sometimes the primary problem is actually auditory processing. They don't hear the sounds very clearly and it comes out as inattention, but the problem could be entirely different. So auditory processing is also very correlated with the children with ADHD. And many children with other neurodevelopmental disorders also has high comorbidity of ADHD. Coming to the management part, the AAP guidelines said, as sir, you just mentioned, that the children between the 4 to 6 years, the first line of treatment should be behavioral interventions only and the parent training. But if those training and those behavioral interventions are not helping the child, then definitely pharmacological approach should be considered. What are the behavior therapies which help children with ADHD? Definitely psychoeducational to the family, to the child themselves, if the child is old enough, that what is their primary condition, how does it impact their learning, how does it impact their daily living, and what they can do strategies to manage it. Older children also behavior therapies by giving parents some of the positive behavior charts or giving positive behavior interventions. Parent training and educational programs. I'll just cover that briefly in the next slide. Social skills training, cognitive behavior therapy, again for the older children or very high intellect, it works well for them. Otherwise, smaller children, the parent training and the teacher training, how to manage behaviors work best. I have also put diet and supplements because a lot of people do follow diet. And as I said, diet, if there are few things which you have seen and a correlation, I am not a big fan of diet therapies because recently I had this mother, this child was from last 4-5 years on medication. She had gone through all kind of professionals. And when I started looking at the family functioning and I met the child was actually very high functioning and was very high intelligent. And a lot of children with gifted IQ also manifest many of the ADHD behaviors, but actually they don't. Because they are very highly intelligent, they are actually not able to keep up sustained attention in the classroom activities. So this mother, because she's been told, she was taking homeopathy also, she was taking methylphenidate also, and she said that I have read that bread, sugar, all these cheese things add to the ADHD. So this child was not allowed to eat sugar. वो दही में sugar डाल के खाता था. They are bansal, they are bania. So I think that's a cultural thing. The father could eat, but the child was not allowed to eat. He's 12 years old. And there was no bread. He really liked eggs. He could bake himself, but that was not allowed to him. So after a lot of doing the thing, we had a family sessions where father was totally against the family to use the diet therapies. And then further, I explained to the mother, how is this helping? The child is getting more and more frustrated. He's getting older. He's getting into, so there was no connection between the parent and the child. So now after working for almost 6 months, there is a lot of improvement in the child's behavior and the other thing. So the mother required a lot of things that, he's a growing up child, eating sugar is not going to harm him, rather than completely taking away the sugar from his thing. So use of supplements, there is a very, very less data which supports use of omega-3s and other things to benefit ADHD, but there is some data which says that. So in management, usually educational interventions are very, very important. The teachers should be able to make environmental and behavior supports. I would come to my next slide. Usually what happens is that children with ADHD, one should have a very proactive approach. Proactive in the sense that if I know my child has a hyperactivity disorder or my child is inattentive, rather than sitting and blaming them, I can actually help in these domains. I'll just briefly explain these domains. Response inhibition is, for example, if I know my child would run on the road. So when I go to a mall or I go to a place, there is a high risk this child might get lost. So, you know, some of the strategies to the parents is that, you know, so when I go, if I have a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, and I know he has a tendency to run on the road, no matter बच्चा बोले मेरे को हाथ छुड़वाना है, मैं हाथ नहीं छोड़ूंगी. You have to, from the security reasons, because you know he has a tendency to run. और गुम हो सकते हैं, जितनी जल्दी हो सकता है उनको फोन नंबर याद करवाओ या उनकी जेब में लिख के रखो. If they get lost, teach them what all can be happen. So proximity with your children when you are in a newer setting or where there is a tendency they can get harmed, that one has to understand that and being proactive in your approach rather than getting worried about what happened next. Working memory is a very commonly we see children with ADHD. Working memory is the same example which I was saying when the teacher is giving a list of instruction, and while working memory is your active memory, whatever being told to you right now, if you store it, it will go to your short-term memory, rehearse, go to long-term memory. But if you lose that information, sometimes if you take somebody's number, you remember for a few minutes and then we forget. That is something which is a working memory. Everybody has a capacity to keep 6 to 10 digits. That's why normally phone numbers are 10 digits. So working memory is an active capacity, but children with ADHD have a very poor working memory. So it's always a good idea to give them certain checklists. For example, I know some parent the other day was saying कि उसको BD भी भूल जाता है. So if you can keep the letters in front of them so that they remember. Sight words can be given a list in front of them so that when they are writing, they don't have to think about spellings. When they are doing multiplication, the tables list actually can be given to them so that they learn the multiplication fact rather than only relying on the how to calculate the 6 into 5 kya hota hai and that. So that I can teach the concept rather than only not burdening their working memory. Some of the self-regulation of affect, children can be taught given a problem situation, that if you're in a classroom setting, if other child will hit you, what will you do? If you are in a setting where if you find somebody's wallet, what will you do? If we move out, then we close our all the lights. Why should we do that? So breaking the task into small steps. Sometimes I hear parents दूसरे room से बोलते रहेंगे, homework खत्म कर लो, and this child will not even start. So breaking down the task, coming on the desk, giving them a notebook and say, I will come back, finish this one, come back and supervise that. That will really help. And also giving the scenarios, and by teaching social stories to children, that we don't disrespect our teachers, we speak like this nicely, respectfully to our adults. That should be a constantly taught, because again, children with ADHD will completely miss understanding the information from the environment. Sustained attention, again, by building up, start the class with a 15-minute. If you set up in a tuition or a classroom setting individual, then build it up to 30 minutes and build it up later. Some children may have attention span of only 30 minutes. Give them a learning environment for 30 minutes and then give a break. But then break should not be unended or not being planned. Tell them that we'll have a 5 minutes break and then we'll come down. So usually otherwise children will find a way, मेरे को bathroom जाना है, मुझे पानी पीना है, मुझे ये करना है. So these are the techniques which we can use to use for sustained attention. And again, task initiation. Use verbal cues, keep reinforcing good behaviors, letting them know, walk through. We just tell the teachers, just go back and just tap on the child's desk and let him know to come back to the class and how to finish that. Go in between and just walk through that. So sometimes giving just a button and tell them that I'm watching you. So these are the things which can be used in the classroom setting for positive reinforcement. A lot of children don't have a planning. Their executive functioning is not very good. So until they are young children, I highly recommend parents to help them plan and organize, because many times the parents will help till 5th grade, 6th grade and they say, अब तो बड़ा हो गया है, बाकी बच्चे करते हैं, ये क्यों नहीं करता है? I would say that I am not saying that I will not keep teaching. I will take small steps. Maybe other children are able to manage their bag. Maybe I can put some different kind of planners, different color, give them color coding, tell them how to put it. So different things, help them in planning, keep teaching them, but until they have not mastered, help them in doing these tasks. And goal directed persistence. Again, create a reasonable goals. I cannot say that you will finish this 100 words essay in one go. They may not. So for my child who only writes very slowly, maybe I'll tell them write 2 sentences and come and help you again. So keep very goal directed and persistent goals for these children. Time management is another thing, because they like to procrastinate. They may not tell you. So supervision is the only answer for children with ADHD and parents flexibility. because many times parents become very rigid too, and they end up hitting their children, or mocking them, or just giving them such a negative reinforcement that children also tends to give up. Explaining children metacognition is cognition about cognition. Giving assignments to children, and actually, when older children, we can explain them what was your reaction, what it could have been, and what you think in future you can do. The children can teach, we can teach strategies how to control their behaviors, how to manage their anger, how not to act impulsively. So a lot of mindful activities can be done with them. It can be taught to them that how they need to react to a situation when there is an unknown environment. Some of the classroom accommodations, as I said, they may have difficulty in the unstructured environment. So as structured, not to change their seat very often. If there is any changes going to happen, let them know. It helps children to structure themselves. Seat them close to the teacher. We call it preferential seating. Have a role model, or sometimes have a buddy with them who can help them to finish their work. If the distractive level, don't make them sit close to the where there are sharpeners, or where there is a window, or there is a door, because that will only cause them to have unnecessarily get distracted. And also sometimes, usually we hear from the teachers is ki ek bacche ke liye kare to baki bacche bhi aise bolenge. So sensitization of the whole classroom as early as kindergarten, first grade is important. We can say it in certain way that all children are different, and the teacher will decide how we are going to help each other. So the community of collaboration should be started as early as possible in this classroom setting. So again, praising the positive behaviors, because these children get so used to of listening only negative feedback. Be consistent, because the confusion is already there, and sometimes the reactions and the impulsive behaviors are unintentional. So as a parent, if I know this is the way my child is going to behave, I am going to let them, and sometimes the teacher can permit the behavior. For example, this child needs a break, so he will be allowed after 30 minutes to go for a water break. Or we can give them some chores. Okay, go and give this running errands, give a sheet or this file to the other room. So making them leader, because they are they have leadership skills. Notebooks print करवानी है, notebooks इकट्ठी करवानी है, आपको कोई चीज distribute करवाना है, you want somebody to go and get the register signed. So these are the things, running errand jobs can be given to them, so that their self-esteem gets better. They get a break from the regular classroom setting, and their energies are being channelized. So this is my concluding. Having ADHD is like being put into a room where things are scattered around, and you may trip. You don't get a flashlight, but everyone else does. You trip around the room, bumping into things until you finally learn the layout of the room. Then someone moves you to a new room, and the process starts again. Usually children with ADHD, when they're in one classroom, they have just learned the protocol, and the year ends, and then they have to restart and get to a new setup. By I end my presentation, there is a lot of research which is coming up, hasn't been in the scientific journals, but in health magazines and everywhere it is talked about. Upside of ADHD also, that because these people are very energetic and they're spontaneous, so they end up being more creative, and they have a sparkling personality. So a lot of leaders and CEOs actually are kind of considered, they have a very high energy, because people who are workaholics, who work almost 18-20 days, where do they keep their energy? So mostly energy put in a right direction can be actually something, can be asset to you rather than only a disadvantage. So that's much is my presentation.
Very well done, Satinder.
Thank you, sir.
And thanks for spending so much time on the management part. That is something which we always wanted to know more about, because that is the interesting part. Though none of us would venture into doing that, but being aware of what exactly is being suggested or done makes you more confidence in seeking such guidance for the child.
And neurodevelopmental disorders are increasing day by day, sir. The classrooms are full of children with different things, and also the younger generation is very distracted anyways. They are very used to for now stimulation from the screen, and now this online learning has added to the transition. Yeah, getting back to the classroom will be a challenge for both teachers and the students.
And very good of you to point out the say importance of the parental involvement. I think maximum impact will be when the parents themselves are involved in helping the children out. But the problem is most parents, they want you to do something for the child without themselves wanting to do or make changes in their own behavior or their response to the child, which is what is desirable.
Absolutely. And
We
that's
have,
what, yeah, sorry, that's what
we have
I,
to
yeah,
spending more time with the child,
yes.
being more involved with the child on a day-to-day basis is the most important thing, I think, for getting over this problem.
I usually say if you will not understand your child's behavior and their main deficit areas and their strengths, then who will else? So usually parents become the most big critique of the children. And as I said, then that becomes their inner voice. We need to change that, you know. No matter whatever the child's behaviors are, every child has a behavior can be good or bad. That can be taught to a child, but every child is good. And usually conduct disorders usually stem up because of those negative feedback only. So that is a very something looked to be
You
looked at.
find these parents in the clinic complaining about the children, and you find
Absolutely.
themselves when you start talking to them
Mhm.
or trying to explain, the other parent starts uh, say using the WhatsApp on their phone or answering.
Mhm.
So even while they are coming to seek a opinion, they are
Mhm.
not really bothered about what you're telling them.
Yeah,
They are themselves distracted at that time and doing some other activity.
absolutely. And this is sort of a major problem right now. Parents are calling, they are saying that children are spending so much time on screen. But the question is, who is not spending time on screen these days? We
That is the
all
only
are.
option. That is
Yes.
the only option available.
Exactly. Right now, that has become actually like, you know, agar video games nahi hoti, what else kids would do? Kids are actually connecting with other children through the screen only. So it's a very um, not
And
easy to answer.
physical activities, involvement in physical activities, exercising, playing is, I think, one of the very good outlets of all the pent up energy these children have. So if you
Absolutely.
call
But
them in,
sir, huh,
which is not possible in these days.
yes. But
Uh,
what happens in regular times also, many times when we say channelize the energy, but if you put them in a structured, if you put them in a, like personally, I would want a child to go for swimming and then go for swimming. If they are going to go to for soccer, then let them play soccer. But having a coach, then it takes away, because then that's not channelizing the energy. Then again, you're putting in them in a situation where they are being judged. So there is also, if I say take them for a channelize their energy, then there should be a balance of learning environment or again putting them in a physical activity.
so,
Ma'am, what percentage of your actually ADHD children end up getting medications? At
Um,
what stage do you advise medications to be given?
So, Dr. Bimin, the percentage of children getting medication is getting higher and higher. More people are aware. For me, until and unless we've exhausted all the behavioral, because medicine is not a treatment, it's also one of the part of management of behaviors. So, if again, if we have outweigh the benefits from the negative aspects, then definitely some children who are totally being oppositional, not able to follow any instruction, they are lost in the classroom. So definitely, if we've exhausted behavioral strategies, I will consider medicine for them. But again, sometimes what happens is parents think this medicine is going to be a treatment. They are not aware that this is also, it's as good as I've given today. So if I've given today medicine and then I have taken it away over the weekend, or I'm not continuing with the medication, so it's not going to help them. And so I have a very I am not against medication, but I am not a big pro of medication to start as a line of treatment as well. Because definitely there comes a time when they are in ninth grade, 10th grade, when the learning needs are very higher. So at that point, if a child's performance is getting affected, I would definitely let parents know that is a good option to consider. But starting from as early as second grade, fourth grade, 10-year-olds, I am not a big advocate for using the medication if it can be managed behaviorally.
So behaviorally, if you are managing them, how long do you actually wait? Is the time frame you set to yourself that I wait for 6 months or 1 year or maybe more than that, and then if child is not getting better, then I think about medications, or is it
Time
the
frame,
intensity of the
intensity,
child?
intensity. impact on your social life and the regular academic educational life.
See, Vipin, there is no cure. This is lifelong.
Sorry, ma'am. Sorry, sir.
There is no cure. You can only control it. It's just like diabetes. So you have to be always off sugar and excessive binging.
No,
So
invariably, अगर parental concerns
throughout your life,
increase,
but that control has to be there throughout life.
Yeah.
This will remain with you. This sort of a behavior goes into adult life, as she mentioned. So it is not that you give for a few months and you cure the child. There is no cure. There is control.
Absolutely.
right?
And also one thing which has to be kept in mind is that many children with ADHD also have learning difficulties. So sometimes parents, when given only that line of treatment, they think that the child will start learning also. But if a child has dyslexia along with that, medicine is not going to take part of that. And then they'll come after 1 year, 1 साल से दवाई दे रहे हैं, अभी भी कुछ पढ़ना नहीं आया, कुछ नहीं आया, because medicine is just there to focus. It's not going to take care of the reading aspect and the writing aspect. So a lot of parental counseling is required, and parent have to be actually part of the treatment in these processes. Otherwise, no matter आप दवाई दे दो, आप behavior techniques कर दो, it doesn't actually work.
Dr. Satinder, if one child is affected in the family, then we need to screen the other child, or like what's the protocol?
The siblings, not necessarily, sir. Sometimes तो कभी एक twin को neurodevelopmental होता है, दूसरे को नहीं होता है. So not necessarily. So it goes with the presentation of the symptoms only.
Okay.
But genetics has a major role to play.
Yes.
So usually these things will run in families, and the parents have a sort of a behavior which maybe or maybe not to some extent impacts the child's.
But also, sir, like a lot of preterm bonds, because preterm is highly associated with ADHD. Low birth weight has been highly associated with ADHD. So all those things also.
Development and genetics, both majorly involved. Would be very interesting, and this is the forte of Dr. Satinder Walia. She's really good in this field, and she's really worked majorly on this. And now also, I think you're doing a lot of work with some of the schools in this aspect.
Yes, sir. I work with a lot of schools, and I also am right now working at a corporate level. Moms Belief is a company where I'm helping them out to set protocols for neurodevelopmental interventions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice day, everybody. Yeah.